Today I'm going to attempt to climb the leagues in England and get to the Premier League using Moneyball. And we're going to do it completely attributeless. Not only that, but we're starting down in the 7th tier of English football. This, my friends, will not be easy. Welcome to Workington in Cumbria and welcome to the Northern Premier League Premier Division, which is indeed 7 levels down. So it's fair to say this is going to be really tough. And it gets tougher when you click on each player because it's been a little while since we've done this, but we have no attributes, just the ability levels and the coach reports to rely on. So when we get going, it makes the performance of each player under the data tab even more important. To show you what we are up against at this level, we are down in 15th at 15 to 1 for promotion, but completely randomly our key player is a well-known one. This is Efe Ambrose. Fans of Scottish football will be very familiar with him. How he has ended up at Workington I do not know, but as you can see, a long career in Scotland, not to mention 50 caps for Nigeria. So what the heck is Efe doing in the 7th tier of English football? Now, undoubtedly, he's going to be my best player. There's no one who can touch him. But after that, it's anybody's guess. Now, for Season 1, I have no idea how to approach this, but I thought I'd try something a little bit funky, such as this free at the back system with a couple of defensive wingers. And obviously, at this stage, my only starter will be Efe Ambrose. At this level, it's not uncommon to see every player with a short-term contract and some without a contract. So they've got basically one season to get in the team and impress me to earn a new deal. But what's good at starting at such a low level is any player that impresses us on this scale here, whatever level they're at, will mean that they can do a job for us. Now that's not always the case when you're a higher division team, because when you're shopping at a lower level, you're taking a bit of a risk. So as the season got going, I tried various versions of the free at the back system. I couldn't quite nail it though. Don't get me wrong, some games we looked really good with the wingers supplying crosses for the strikers, but then we'd go and lose a match and we were just conceding as many as we were scoring. It meant our first season with this squad was very up and down, and around halfway we sat in 11th position, and believe it or not, I'm quite happy with that for the first season. With a lack of numbers in the squad, I've had to rely on scout reports first off to get me some players in. And the thing is, it's important not to get too attached to these players because they've all got short contracts. With a real lack of players down the left hand side, I bought in Beresford and I'm retraining him to play as a left-sided player. He started okay. But as expected, our standout player, and it's not even close, is Efe Ambrose. Now 37, playing at centre-back, he somehow managed to score 10 times, and have a look at this. Possession 1, as good as you'll ever see. Tackles are great, pressures are great, headers are great, and then for some reason, he's fantastic going forward as well. What are you cooking, sir? The strikers are doing okay, but it's nothing to shout about, so I probably need to bring in a player. And as for the goalkeeper, yeah, I think we're going to need a new one eventually. But like I said, there's no point getting attached to any of these players because they're likely all going to move on at the end of the season anyway. But hopefully we can find 1 or 2 standouts to stay at the club for next season. The good news was one of the signings in January proved to be a big success. Striker Sam Fishburn bagged 19 goals in 21 matches, going at nearly a goal per match. He's also winning a great amount of headers for a striker. And once we'd settled on a formation, the second half of the season was much more consistent. And we finished the season in a very respectable 8th place, just a little outside of the playoff positions. And the good news was there was some players who had a good season who will do a job for us next season, such as centre-back Stephen Swinglehurst. Beresford has adapted to that new role on the left side of midfield. When evaluating a defensive winger, it's somewhere between full-back, defensive midfield and attacking midfield. It's a pretty tricky one to judge, but I'm going to decide on just looking for his assists, his possession 1 and tackles 1, and he's doing a decent job. So after evaluating Season 1, you can see the amount of positions I've got empty, ready to fill for the new season. You'll also know we lost Efe Ambrose. He just left us when his contract ended. After a stunning season in which he scored 17 times with a great average rating, he's off, and judging by the teams that want him, he's off to league football. Fair enough. So I've started to build my shortlist of players around my level that are all going to be out of contract. It's a combination mostly of scout reports, as you can see, there's some big recommendations coming in, and players with a couple of standout points from their data. At this level, you're not going to get someone like an Efe Ambrose that is outstanding everywhere, so you need to pick and choose. For example, Caelan Gallagher-Allison, a centre-back, great at winning the ball back and tackles, not so good at winning headers. But we're using a free at the back system, so if I can find another couple of defenders who are good in the air, that should offset that. Then this man can concentrate on winning the ball back with tackles, and Swinglehurst can concentrate on winning the headers. So in effect, the way I'm going to go with it is, you can make one really good player, but but out of 2 or 3 other players, and at this level I think I can get away with that. And using our new philosophy, we did manage to build a pretty good defensive team. New signing David Roberts concentrated on winning headers, and he did so at an amazing 87% ratio. To be fair, Stephen Swinglehurst gave me a pretty all-round centre-back performance, which meant Danny Rowe could just fill in the gaps, winning the ball back, winning tackles at a decent amount of headers, but nothing spectacular because the other 2 are doing that job. In central midfield, Ellis Stanton had came in and he was winning the ball back and progressing the ball nicely. And up front, new signing Manasseh Mampala wasn't prolific. He scored 10 times, but he was putting the work in around the pitch, which opened things up for Sam Fishburne to do the goal scoring. Although currently he is out for an extended period of time, which is a massive blow. Now it led to a really solid start, but we've just now started to hit the skids a little bit. We're sat similar to last season in 9th position, but we are a little bit closer to those playoff positions. But concentrating on a new defence has meant we've got one of the best defences in the league. After that bad run, we made a couple of tweaks to the tactic and it seemed to work. I'm really happy with the front boys. When they're all fit, we've got one of the best strike forces in the league. We closed out the season winning 7 games out of 9, but agonisingly missing out on the playoffs by 2 points, meaning we're stuck in the 7th tier for a 3rd season. The tactic has changed into this. I've dropped the wide centre-backs for traditional ones. I've moved the defensive wingers back to wing-backs. And to get ready for season 3, it's always going to be complicated by the amount of players that will be out of contract yet again. Unlike season 1 going into season 2 going into season 3, I want to keep most of these players. That's because they've excelled most of the time, and results have improved when we move those wingers back to wing-back, but some players will have to be replaced because they've got a bit big for their boots. So I went into the 3rd season at this level knowing I needed to recreate the success at centre-back in other areas of the pitch. It started in central midfield where I moved centre-back Danny Rowe into that central midfield position, and he was ideal replacing the players that left us in terms of possession won and progressing the ball. But we were even better up front. New signing Jackson Davis came in from Warrington purely to be the goal scorer. That's what he focused on and he did it great, scoring 31 times. Not to be outdone, Fishburne at target forward scored another 31 this season but did assist more as well. And Mampala continued to give me that all-round striking performance. They were assisted by the outstanding wing-backs that we had at the club. We had Beresford on the left and on the right side Milmore, who came in from Newcastle released. And he was, quite frankly, ridiculous with a .054 expected assist ratio, which led to 31 assists from right wing back. All that led to us having a much better season where we scored a lot more goals, and somehow we got to the playoff final against Whitby. In a tight affair which could have gone either way, to be honest. We got the winner from that right hand side yet again, this time Elliott smashing in the winner, which meant finally we get out of the 7th tier. And you may notice a bit of a tactic change as well. So this might look a bit carnage, but it is a take on a lower league tactic I created way back when called the Factory. Both wing-backs bombing forward, Milmore with an even more advanced starting position, and hopefully the defensive midfielder can cover him when he loses the ball. But it's all about getting these 3 strikers involved, and that's why they ended up with such a high goal return. In effect, we're playing 4 up front. And the most important thing about all that is we did get ourselves promoted finally to the 6th tier. And the interesting thing is, despite conceding a load of goals, the centre-backs still did their job. Roberts winning the ball back and winning headers. But there was a little bit of a drop-off from the legendary Swinglehurst, so we're probably going to have to look at that for the next season. As we got ready for our first season in our new league, I'd only lined up a couple of signings. That's because in general, I'm pretty happy with the team and I'm willing to give them a chance at the higher level. Having said that, Dana Amaral will give us good versatility, and Kyle Crosley will come in as an attacking option down the right hand side. But it's pretty risky business to play this tactic at this higher level, but I'm pretty confident it will outscore most teams. So in the Vanarama National League North, we are ranked down at 16th at 25-1. I mean, it could have been worse. Our first game of the season was against pre-season favourites Gateshead, and to everyone's surprise, we battered them. We gave them a 4-goal thrashing and signs were positive. And the first half of the season started electric. We dropped off a little bit, but at the halfway point we were right in the shuffle in 3rd position. Milmore continued to impress at wing-back. In fact, most of them were handling the step up pretty well. We'd got our new centre-back in Logan Watts and he was doing everything right. And if you look at centre-back David Roberts, his data is outstanding, and if you compare that to his ability, he really shouldn't be playing this well. But largely thanks to that front three up front, scoring 84 goals between them, our performance throughout the campaign was really good, only just dropping down to 5th. And like so often happens in lower league saves, we kept the momentum from last season and managed to bag ourselves back-to-back promotions. And with more players out of contract as we head towards the Vanarama National, we brought in 29 players in our 3 seasons, and that's only going to increase. But I have decided to give a chance to some of the players that have got us this far, because some of them have just been outstanding all the way through. Right, we're up to the 5th tier. It's taken 4 seasons, so this is going to be a long haul, so strap in. But now we can attempt to get some slightly better players in, but as the legend David Roberts has shown at centre-back, you can get some diamond players lower down the leagues that really do outperform their actual abilities. We were laced up and ready for our first season in the Vanarama National League, one step off being a league football team, but unfortunately, we were ranked at 600 to 1. As usual in the pre-season, there was another high turnover of players, but the core of the team still remained, in David Roberts, wing-back Beresford and striker Sam Fishburn. And early on we did shock a few teams, including this against Yeovil, a game in which we won 8-2 after taking a 3-goal lead in 6 minutes. However, there was more losses than wins in the first half of the season, and we were kind of stuck at 15th, but the good news was we were 10 points clear of relegation. In the second half of the season it was more of the same, but unfortunately more losses than victories and a really bad finish, which meant our first season in the Vanarama National was a bit underwhelming, finishing in 17th, but we have to remember we were ranked at 600 to 1. It was clear I was going to have to change things, but one thing remained the same. David Roberts continues to be an absolute baller of a player. And I've got absolutely no need to replace Bo Beresford at wing-back because he continues to supply me with assists and his defensive work is pretty good as well. This was a season where Sam Fishburn did struggle a little bit more, and if you look closely at the league table you will see that although we scored 88 times, we also conceded 96. So despite Roberts' heroic performance, it could be time for the factory tactic just to take a little rest for next season. Now going into season 6 I'd identified the players I was happy with, and thankfully that included the entire back 4. Watts had came in alongside Roberts and was doing a great defensive job, so I knew I needed some extra quality, so the search began in pre-season with some key metrics for various positions. For example, this is for an attacking midfielder, so I've got goals per 90 minutes at 0.1, same for expected assists, and I'd like him to put a bit of a tackle ratio in as well at 70%. This brought me to Theo Chapman, a 25-year-old midfielder who's playing at a lower level, but one who's got good versatility and a good goal record, and he will fit in perfectly. I also needed a striker just to put pressure on Fishburn. Goals per 90 at 0.6 would be ideal, and this is where we found striker Alan Thurgood, who's repaid us fantastically. To help Roberts out in stopping goals, I actually got a goalkeeper who looks like he can save something. And the other thing to bear in mind at this level is that most players leave pretty much straight after the season finishes, so you need to be quick, otherwise you won't be able to judge their data. So some players you're going to have to rely on your scouts to decide if they're going to be good enough for you. So we managed to build ourselves a team, but some things remain the same. Up front I was going to rely on Sam Fishburn for yet another season. And we'd started our second season in the National League pretty damn well, rising as high as 4th, and most importantly we'd definitely sorted out that defence, only conceding 26 in 21. Which sounds a lot, but in the National League there's always going to be goals, and in the season preview we were still down at 250 to 1. The good news was the players brought in were doing their job. The goalkeeper looked really good, especially, shockingly, on the ball, although some players just didn't work out, such as centre-back Reece Morris, who basically offered me absolutely nothing, which cranked the pressure up on the legend David Roberts, and once again he was outstanding. After a really horrible stretch in between late November and early January, we did manage to turn things around with about 55 different tactics, which led us to recovering and claiming a place in the playoffs with a 7th place finish just creeping in. And after a playoff campaign that included beating Torquay away, Solihull Moors in the semis, we hit the National League playoff final at Wembley Stadium, although it's not exactly packed, but we did the job and won 4-2. And that victory means we've got ourselves into league football. As the data hub shows, we tried a load of different tweaks on the tactic, and in fact the one that got us over the line was the one that we didn't perform exactly brilliant at. So going into league football, I'm going to have to build a new tactic that I have more confidence in,
And as for the squad, it pains me to say it, but I don't think Sam Fishburne will be able to do it at the next level up. But I'm going to give a chance to Bo Beresford, he's earned that. It does look like we've got a good goalkeeper, and despite only being valued between 0 and 2.5k, you better believe I'm giving David Roberts a chance in league football. You could say it's not been the most spectacular rise into league football with an 8th place, a 7th place, a 3rd place, a 5th, a 17th, and then scraping promotion at 7th. And I think pretty soon we might need a new stadium. So following promotion, I'm going to build my shortlist in the hope that the wage budget goes up when we transition over to a league team. I'm thinking for the new season to go back to basics and go for 4-4-2. In fact, I'm building it from scratch. So I need to get all the instructions in and ready to go, and I don't want to overload the team too much, so I'm going to keep it pretty simple. Now, as seems to be standard with our little club, as we go into League 2, we are disrespected so much at 900 to 1. To attempt to counter this, I brought some players in, such as George Abbott as centre-back, Aidan West a winger, Milan Alexic, who's probably going to play attacking midfield, and Lewis Walker, a bit of a playmaker. And I've got my 4-4-2 ready, so let's see what happens. And all faith in the big man. Well, going back to basics seemed to have worked. We weren't blowing teams away in terms of performance, but we were getting some big results. Indeed, scoring some last minute winners, playing a little bit ugly, but overall it was a pretty great start to our league career. Shockingly sat in 3rd position, but it's super tight. You lose a couple of games and you can end up in the bottom half of the table. But wow, what a start. We just need to be careful though, because we have lost 4 out of our last 5 matches. And yes, Roberts is still winning an absolute boatload of headers, but he's not winning the ball back as much. But it's been okay though, because Keefe Vasquez has played alongside him, and he's been winning the ball back and winning the tackles, leaving the headers to the main man. Up front, I'm getting a classic pressing forward performance from Cavan Halliday, prioritising everything else, but not really scoring as many goals as we could do with, but we are sharing the goals around a lot. In the second half of the season, we even gave Everton a bit of a fright in the FA Cup, and using the 4-4-2, we didn't lose many matches in the second half of the season, which meant we maintained our form. 900 to 1, not on your life, because we finished the season in 5th position. Which led once again to another playoff campaign. First up, Exeter. First leg, we lose 4-3. But in the second leg, back at the Workington Stadium, we turn it on its head, winning 4-2 and getting to the playoff final. Now in the playoffs, we've got an exceptional record, and we took an early lead against Stockport. And in the second half, we only went and doubled it thanks to a right wing cross from Evans. On the 75th minute, Stockport did fire back to put things into doubt. But we held on, taking it down 2-1 and getting back-to-back promotions like so often happens. However, we kind of robbed the entire league here, because despite only losing 10 matches, if you look at the XG table, we blagged it. We should have been finishing down in 10th. We got to the playoffs and somehow got ourselves promoted. Roberts stayed in the team throughout and just kept winning those headers. Halliday gave me the complete all-round striker performance and did improve his goal output to bag 26, but there was some drop-offs from some of our day one players like Beresford. He's probably reached the end of the road, as have quite a lot of the squad, because contracts are up and I'm going to have to let them go. So now we enter Tier 3, League 1 in England, and this is going to be tough, but we do have some decent money for wages. So leaning heavily on my scouts, I was able to get some early signings locked in, and then I went data shopping for some more players, including going to the player stats screen and dropping down the leagues back to where we started and having a look at some of these players that have had good seasons down at lower levels. I keep going on about David Roberts, but there are some good players that can do a job down there. And I do need to bulk the squad out because there's only a few players that are absolute certainties. By the time pre-season was done, we picked up players from Blythe Spartans, Woking, Leicester and Guiseley, teams from as low down as Tier 7. League 1 welcomed us with the usual absolutely horrific odds, this time 350 to 1. The only goal for this season is to simply survive. And at the midway point of the season, you could see that was going to be a battle. But if you gave me 19th position at the end of the season, I'll snap your hands off, so fingers crossed. Not quite desperation, but not far off, because I went to hoofball to try and get us out of this mess. And that involved using much more direct passing and just lumping it forward. David Roberts check, yep, he's still winning headers, but goals had dried up for my strikers, as this step up was proven to be perhaps a bridge too far for a lot of the squad. Second half of the season, we actually put up a pretty good fight, working hard to scratch out just enough wins to help us out. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't pretty. We hardly had any of the ball, down in 22nd position and bottom of passes completed,
but we did enough to cling on and stay in 19th place, 1 point above relegation. That was rough. There was some signs of promise. Adi Bateson was signed from the National League North and did okay in the limited number of minutes he had. But when your goalkeeper concedes 123 goals in all competitions, you know you got a bit of a problem. So with over half the squad out of contract, let's take this opportunity to rebuild the squad and put a new identity to the team, because another season of struggle like that and we'll never get to the Premier League. Right, we are 8 seasons in now, and in honesty, every season we've been scratching around trying to find a tactic that just kind of works. But I think now's the time to really get to a tactic, stick with it and use that one going forward. For that, I went to old rival Marco Rose and decided on a box setup to try and shock the lower levels of English football. Knowing what tactic shape I'm going for now helped me plan our season transfers, and I've got a rake coming in. Pure goal scorer George Atiba, who scored 19 times for Hereford. Fullback Andre Jonsson might give me a bit more defensively than I've got at the minute. I shopped around for defensive cover and Tommy Fogarty will come in. He's playing in National League North. Defensive midfielder Jackson Brown, ball winner. And higher up the pitch, exciting player Divine Mukasa, who's playing for Accrington Stanley. And what we got out of these players was a much improved performance. We now look like a decent side at this level. Games like this against Crewe, where we completely dominated the match momentum, was pretty common affair. And we might have unearthed a gem from them lower leagues in Mukasa supplying Atiba. He was scoring all types of goals, and only 19 years old, he could be one to watch. Flying at the halfway point of the season, he's even given me assists. Beautiful. What it boiled down to was a much improved season, with the highlight being going away to Fulham in the Premier League, in the FA Cup, and beating them pretty comfortably as well. We even opened up against some teams, like this astonishing 7-3 win against Barnsley, a game in which Halliday scored 3 times and he's had a fantastic season again. And to my surprise, the living legend David Roberts actually had a better season as an all-round centre-back this season than he did last season. He's aging like a fine wine. The season overall saw great progress as we sit 8th in the league table, missing out on the playoffs by just 7 points, but there's definitely something to work with. We just need to sort this defence out because we ship goals. Man, this save is so tough because you can't see attributes, so in essence we don't really know how good players are. Like, I've been bigging up the legend that is Roberts. For all I know, he could be absolutely awful, but he just seems to be outperforming it. If we had attributes, we'd obviously make a more informed decision, but we are getting there. Now, throughout this journey, we haven't signed anyone permanently from a higher division than us, or even a league at the same level as us. Now's the time, perhaps though, to push for some extra quality to get us to this championship. Because we know there's great potential with this team and this setup. We were really good last season, we just need to tighten up at the back. The problem is, when you look at the goals we've conceded this season, 26 have came from crosses, 21 have came from through balls, and 14 have came from corners. That's hard to block all 3 of those. So I'm going to get some man marking on the go, including from the attacking midfielders to help out wide. So they'll cover the fullbacks, meaning my fullbacks can concentrate on the opposition wingers. And that seemed to help us. Although we were still conceding, it wasn't as many. And we were managing to put some decent results together. The players brought in the summer were helping. Max Swift at centre-back gave me good cover for Roberts, and he made the jump from the National League. With George Atiba having another good goal-scoring season, and the fullbacks putting on good performances. Throughout the season, we maintained the good form and locked in a top 6 finish, hitting us up with the playoffs yet again. It looked tricky when we drew Luton in the playoffs, but the first leg ended 5-3 in an epic. And we got the job done in the second leg, beating them again for an 8-5 aggregate win. We're off to another playoff final. It may take us a while to get to these playoffs, but when we do get there, we've got a pretty great record. And we did it again, managing to beat Oxford and finally getting ourselves into the championship. So now in the year 2033, we've made ourselves from the 7th tier up to the championship, and that's going to be a tough league. Indeed, unsurprisingly, we were ranked down at 350 to 1 and ironclad certainties to get relegated. Perhaps stupidly, I'm going to keep faith with the entire squad from last season. I'm only going to add 3 or 4 players, one of which will be attacking midfielder Kofi Shaw, who's been at Bristol Rovers, defensive midfielder Leon Youngan, who's playing for Gateshead, but he wins the ball back a ton, but it'll be a big step up from the National League North. Centre-back Mark Hancock's from Colchester, who's going to be my most expensive signing yet at 200,000. And finally, young striker or attacking midfielder Ewan Chalmers, who's only 18. So other than those signings, the faith will be in the current squad. And faith seemed to be justified in one of our early matches against title favourites Fulham. Atiba scores in a 3-0 win. And that wasn't the only big win against big sides, as we beat Southampton 4-2. And we started the season great. Then there was a big blip in around autumn time before getting it back somewhat. But I was pretty happy with the season in the Championship. It's our first one, remember, and this win over Salford late in the season thanks to a Tabor again meant we were able to survive, and do you know what, it was pretty comfortable as well, finishing with 55 points, well clear of the relegation zone. And the players stepping up did a passable job. Leon Younggun, who was playing for Gateshead, jumped into defensive midfield and did well, as did Hancock's at centre-back, jumping up from Colchester, and despite being down there pretty much the entire season, we've got to be happy with that. And because of this success and basically swallowing a pill and accepting our fate by just trying to survive, our finances have shot up to nearly 5 million, which has meant finally in the year 2034 I can up the scouting range to world and look for players from further afield. Although it looks like our transfer budget will still be low for next season. Seriously, this has taken me ages. When I started this save, I had a skinhead. Now this looks like the big breakthrough because we've managed to stay in the Championship, not spending any money, still bringing those players up from the National League and various places like that. Now we've got some money, I can finally have a look for some better players. And not only that, we've only gone and built a new stadium. So there you can see our new stadium, built in 2034, capacity 10,500, progress. Speaking of progress, thanks to that scouting range increasing and more additional scouts brought in, I was able to score some signings that should help us in this quest to get up from the Championship. From Croatia, fullback Darko Pripic will be coming in on a free transfer. Ball-winning midfielder John Majeli. But I think the prize signing will be Jaime Lopez. He's coming in from South America, Paraguay more specifically, where he's got a good goal-scoring record. Now he could play either as a striker or in the attacking midfield slot, and he looks like a good goal-scoring threat. Excited to get him in. He's going to cost me 220,000. And to back him up is going to be young attacking midfielder Solomon Amanike from Exeter. I was happy with my transfer work, but we only got a little bit more respect of the pundits by levelling us at 200-1 in the season preview. And it was a bit of a stop-start to the season. The big turning point seemed to be in this game against Norwich, which we won 4-3 with a 92nd minute winner from a corner. After that we went on a great run which pretty much lasted the entire season. As I'd hoped, Jaime Lopez proved to be a fantastic signing from Paraguay, scoring a bucket load of goals. 21 in total, a constant threat. We got another 20 from Atiba, who's now valued between 5.6 and 6.2 million. And attacking midfielder Kofi Shaw, who we got from Bristol Rovers, had a breakout season. With Mark Hancock's having a fantastic performance at centre-back, I mean seriously really good. It's meant we've managed to score a top 6 finish as we go to the playoffs. In the playoff semi we've got a tough draw because we're against Leeds United, managed by Alvaro Arbeloa. In the first leg, despite dominating, we lose the match 2-1. In the second leg, it was all about those Moneyball signings, as first Kofi Shaw got us level, and then deep into extra time, 118 minutes on the clock, Atiba scored. But have a look at this assist. That 2-0 win sends us through to the playoff final. I won't lie, not the ideal start. After only 5 minutes, we fell behind. But on 23, we responded. Lopez got us level, and then who else but Atiba put us in front. And later on, we sealed the win and claim ourselves an unlikely place in the blooming Premier League. So we are finally in the Premier League. We have accomplished our goals. It has been blooming tough. I think I've got to do a season to see if I can keep them in the league though, right? And I think a lot of these players will be good enough for the step up. Well, they're worth a chance at least. Striker Atiba must be given a chance. And Hancock, who we signed from Colchester at centre-back, definitely 22-goal striker Jaime Lopez. Attacking midfielder Kofi Shaw, outstanding. But if we do want to improve the squad at the Premier League, the board have been generous, giving us 25 million. So I've got faith in my squad, but I am going to back them up with these bunch of players here, because it is the Premier League after all. Nigerian goalkeeper Shadrach Amanike will come in. He looks absolutely outstanding. Granted, he's played his whole career in Nigeria, but he's worth a chance. Centre-back Sam Roovers will come in from the second tier in the Netherlands. From the Championship, I've got Ross Vaughan coming in as a defensive destroyer. Those players alongside the ones already at the club, I'm hopeful we can somehow survive in the Prem. But, and it's a big but, I have never seen odds as big as that since I started playing Football Manager. 2,000-1. Whoa. So our first game as a Premier League side was against Arsenal, and we only went and shocked the entire world by beating them. Who would have thought it, eh?
My plucky underdogs then went to Manchester City and got a 97th minute equaliser from Atiba. And we absolutely stole that one. The good times rolled on as we drew against Liverpool. And then we went to Brighton and absolutely smashed them 4-1. The Premier League's easy. Well, it was, because after that, things took a bit of a turn. A big turn. I thought we were turning it around with this 4-4 draw against Liverpool, but it's fair to say this has been a pretty rough season. But with 3 games to go, we do still have a chance. But we only got 1 point from our last 3 matches and ended up relegated. And these ungrateful gets look like they're about to sack me. And as for the supporters, so this is one of those rare scenarios where this type of video doesn't end up with us miraculously winning the Champions League. In fact, if you look at my job history, the highest league position we managed was 3rd. We didn't win a title at all, but we did find some players that got us from Tier 7 right up until the Premier League. And let's not forget, some legends were truly born. Right, I'm going for a haircut.